So good evening friends. In this bonus lecture of Jigar Bhai, now we are playing ICI Moto song. I request all the participants to put their right hand on their heart. So friends, today we are having with us Advocate CA Jigar Shah, who is going to deal with section 12 and 13 of IGST so far as the place of supply of services in domestic and out of India are concerned. So Jigar Bhai, welcome once again, and we are thankful to our chairman CA Fanil Shah in his absentia that he has given us this slot and he agreed to this proposal. So I think that all the members will be taking benefit of this. With this word, now I request Chairman of Indirect Tax Committee, CA Rahul Maliwal, to address the participants. Thank you.
Thank you, Vishan Bhai. Faculty for the session again, Jigar Bhai, the Chairman of Ahmedabad branch in his absentia. Fanil Bhai, the Secretary of Ahmedabad branch, Vishan Bhai, and all the dear participants, welcome you all on this bonus session of place of supply. First of all, many thanks to our faculty Jigar Bhai, who is agreed to take this balanced part of place of supply covering section 12 and section 13 on this Saturday evening, because generally is because this is the time for the leisure, but he has taken out his leisure time to give and give the knowledge to all the participants. Now I'll request Jigar Bhai to take his charge and carry forward the session. Thank you, Jigar Bhai.
Yeah, thank you very much. See, actually, what the major thing we are missing is the going to the court and arguing the matters. So when you go to the court, the fortunate part is that High Court has insisted both. Whatever the arguments you argue and the length of the arguments, they generally don't interrupt you. So the most fascinating part of it we are missing in our life due to this COVID-19. So you are allowed to, or you have given the opportunity to speak for an unlimited time. So instead of this Saturday evening, I grabbed the opportunity and said that I will carry out this session. So I get a chance to speak once again. And thank you very much for that. So friends, we saw this last time, this place of supply for the goods, and we said that it's basically the principle is a destination based consumption tax, and it for other purposes also that you claim the refund for export. So whether to give you refund or not, if it is not export, then what would be the situation? So all those things we saw last time, and we generally refer to the provisions of related to these goods. Section 7, as I said, is the most important section because it says that it basically gives you the principles for a determination of interstate supply. There are some problems there in the section, so that also we have already seen in so far as it affects the determination of place of supply of the goods. Now we will see for the this place of supply for the services, but the basic provision remains the same. So section 7 is therefore having so much importance. Section 7, section 8 is already the you can say is a contra image of the section 7. Section 7 is dealing with interstate supply. This deals with the intrastate supply. So it's directly the contra. Then 9 is a specific provision. Then 10, section 10, we have seen that the place of supply of goods in a different situation where the movement is required. Then we saw that decision of AAR in case of Penna Cements, which says that this, in so far as the GST is concerned, the terms on which you supply the goods, whether it is a FOR basis or a factory gate basis, hardly matters so far as the movement of the goods is concerned. And you have to determine the place of supply where the movement terminates. So far as this bill to ship to model is concerned, we understood the principle that how it works, and where the movement of the goods is not involved, then the goods are assembled or installed at site. And then when goods are supplied on board a conveyance, though we have not seen any, you can say, case law, but there will be one case in services. We will see that the services also can be supplied on board a conveyance or what. So here we missed one case law that we will cover when we discuss about the services, when you provide the services on board a conveyance. So principle we will understand from this. Then this is a pictorial. This is what the cases we have seen. Sterlite Technologies, I said that it's not even this amendment was not there in Schedule 3. Then also the tax was not payable. And we also understood this principle of this INA bearings. Wherever this extraterritoriality, etc., is to be discussed, then you can refer to this INA bearings case also, which basically said that the charging section, so far as the IGST Act is concerned, it's still section 5. Section 7 is only for the interpretation of or a determination whether this transaction is intrastate supply or interstate supply, not more than that. So that was the important takeout from that decision. Now we come to this our main part of section 12 and 13. If you look at the history, service tax was a central levy. So it was levied under section 97C of the list 1 to the first schedule of Constitution, schedule to the Constitution of India. It was a central government levy. So consider a case of a construction service provider. He is registered in Gujarat, but his site is going on in Delhi, Maharashtra, West Bengal, etc. But he was having only one registration because there was a provision that if you want to take registration only in a one place, then you can, because it hardly affected the government revenue. So you take the registration, say for example, in a 3-4 places, and you pay tax, and you get yourself registered only at a one place, and then you pay tax. The amount of tax to be paid was same, and the authority which will be recovering these taxes also would be same. So they introduced the provision for registration of a special categories of person. Therein the option was given to you that if you want to take a centralized registration, then you can take a centralized registration. There was no such problem. But now, because this both the state authorities as well as the central authorities, and we have to see that ultimately which government is entitled to take this revenue. We saw this or we discussed the example of this hotel industry, like Goa and Kerala represented before the GST Council, that so far as the determination of place of supply for the fixed assets, immovable property is concerned, then you frame the law in a way that we do not lose our autonomy to collect taxes, and we do all the time, we don't have to come to the central government for financial assistance. So the place of supply, so far as the immovable property is concerned, it is fixed in a way that where the immovable property is located, that we will see in detail. So that was the basically logic into that, and that is the reason that generally the state government will be aggressive so far as the some revenue is directly getting into their kitty. So that will be also be the thing. Now there are two sections, unlike under the earlier rule. Earlier we have no problem so far as the service tax regime is concerned, and those participants who are familiar with the service tax provision will recollect that there was only place of provision of service rules 2012 to determine the transaction whether this place of supply is in India or otherwise, because they were hardly bothered, because only the central government was levying the tax if it is not an export of services. So the problem was not there. But now the problem will be whether it should be IGST or CGST, SGST. So for that purpose also the determination of place of supply will assume some importance. Now you look at the difference between these two sections. Section 12 says that when the location of a supplier and the location of recipient both in India, then the place of supply for the services will be determined in terms of section 12. when the location of a supplier or a location of recipient is outside India, then section 13 will be applicable. And as I said, that when we discuss the provisions of us so far as the determination of place of supply of goods is concerned, we said that you need to take two things in your mind: location of the supplier and the place of supply. So we considered and we saw some illustration in this principle in mind, that location of the supplier, and as I said last time also, that you will not have more difficulties into that. You can easily identify the location of the supplier. The challenge will be in determination of place of supply. If you want to achieve mastery on this, only these two things you need to take into your consideration: location of the supplier and the place of supply. Then you will be easily able to identify that whether this transaction is an interstate supply or intrastate supply. This is the only thing in this, and I can tell you that you need not refer to anything. You simply read the legislation. That itself is a good guide. You get the mastery on section 7, and I am sure that whatever problem comes before you for determination of place of supply of goods and services, I am sure that you will be able to answer. So there are no such thing that you need to read so many case laws and all. If you have a knowledge of some legacy disputes and also the issues coming up in this AAR and all, you can just refer to. But if you have a clear understanding of section 7 and these provisions 12 and 13, you will not have any problem. I am sure that all of you would be able to determine the place of supply correctly when we conclude this session. So this is the basic scheme of this. So section 12 of the IGST Act, place of supply of services where location of a supplier of service and also the location of the recipient both is in India. So this is basically the general rule. And this general rule more or less is similar so far as the section 13 is also concerned. General rule is that location of the supply, because service is unlike goods, like in goods you do not have any problem because you can physically check the movement of the goods, where the goods have gone, the border of Gujarat is crossed, the goods have reached to Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh or Rajasthan as the case may be. But so far as the services are concerned, it's intangible in nature, and that is the reason that many of the tax legislation they are struggling with the determination of place of supply for the services are concerned. So general rule is, if the service is there, what they have done, they have according to the categories of the services, like immobile property related, some services will be performance related, where you actually hand over the goods to the supplier of services, some event based, where you are actually holding the event. Then certain services, you can say management services. So how to determine the place of supply for these telecommunication services? For each have a specific rule section, you can say, for determination of place of supply. One thing we need to bear in mind is, these are all not, you may have a different thoughts on this, and these are all one kind of deeming fiction. These are all default rules, you can say. These are not that actually this may be happening. So that is the difficulty in determination of place of supply. Now, if you look at this, general principle is this: if your services are not falling into any specific, like a telecommunication, performance based, event based, immobile property, all services they have given the different set of rules. But however, if your service is not falling into that particular service, then the default rule is applicable, which says that supply to a registered person. If you are supplying these services to a registered person, then the location of the recipient. So if you are in Gujarat, your services are chartered accountant services. So far as the chartered accountant services are concerned, section 12 does not have any specific rule, specific provision to determine the place of supply. It will be the location of the recipient. So if you are in Gujarat, you are providing your chartered accountancy services a person located in Gujarat, then location of the supplier. Location of the supplier is in Gujarat, you don't have any difficulty. Now, what would be the place of supply? Place of supply would be supply to registered person. If you are supplying to a registered person, then the location of the recipient. If you are providing your chartered accountancy services to a unregistered person, then address is available on record. If you say, yes, I know he is in Surat, he is in Vadodara, then the location of the supplier. So the place of supplier, location of the supplier is known to you. You are in Gujarat. But now, how to determine the place of supply? Place of supply will be determined in this way: location of the recipient, if address is available on record. If address is not available on record, then the location of the supplier. So if you do not have the address of the recipient, You don't know whether he is from Maharashtra, he is from West Bengal, he is from UP, he is from Jharkhand, Bihar. You don't know. In that case, government will say that then your address is the place of supply. So you are in Gujarat, location of the supplier. Now, what is the place of supply? You don't have address, you don't know. Then your address. So location of the supplier is in Gujarat. Place of supply is also in Gujarat. You charge local CGST, SGST. That fellow, after receiving services from you, that fellow may go to some other place, but that is hardly relevant. But if you have the address available on record, because he is otherwise unregistered, so but you know that he is in Maharashtra, then you charge IGST. Location of the supplier and the place of supply is determined in this way. That's simple. Now you look at this immovable property related services. As I said that there are separate default rules for each of the services. The general rule will be applicable if your services are not falling into the services now we are going to discuss. So services directly in relation to an immovable property. And the examples given are services provided by architects, interior decorators, surveyors, estate agents, contractors in relation to immovable property, hotel accommodation services, renting of immovable property services, business or social function. Then it says that location at which the immovable property is located. So if you are a registered person, say for example, construction service provider in Gujarat. Now, location of the supplier, you are in Gujarat, yes. As we understand, there will not be any difficulty. But if you have been awarded a contract by the government of Delhi, then what will happen? Then the place of supply would be the place where the immovable property is located, that is in Delhi, because you are going to construct a building there. Now, where I see the dichotomy between these two provisions, though it is not connected with the determination of place of supply of services, but I must answer, or I must address to your curiosity, that a construction service provider, if he goes to Delhi and construct the building, the place of supply as per the section, this section 12.3 would be the premises or the place where the immovable property is located. Then can I charge IGST? Government of Delhi will say, your place of supply is my place, my state. You are providing the services by coming into my state. You are providing the services from my state. Therefore, as per section 22, a place or a state from which you provide the services, you must get the registration. So there I find dichotomy between the provisions of the IGST Act and section 22 of the CGST Act, which deals with the registration of a person. And that is why I am saying that if you are providing the services in relation to immovable property, my view is that you must get yourself registered into that state and charge, because in that state, if you get yourself registered, then the location of the supplier will get changed from Gujarat to Delhi, and then you are providing the services from there. Now you have got yourself registered in Delhi, so location of the supplier is in Delhi, and you are constructing a building, that is the services in relation to immovable property services. Then the place of supply would be where the immovable property is situated. Then again, it's a Delhi. So there you will have to charge local CGST plus SGST of Delhi. That is what my view is. We will see this cases also into this. Now, one exception. Now, say for example, uh, you have a bungalow in France, Paris. You want to avail the services of architect for renovation or some designing for that bungalow in Paris. Now, what would happen if you say that the place of supply is Paris because immovable property is situated there? Then you will say that the place of supply is outside India. Then you remember that INA Bearings case. We saw that even though both the parties are in India, but the place of supply was outside India or was not determinable, then we will say that no tax is payable. But that particular thing will not work so far as the services are concerned, because there is an exception. It says that if the location of the immovable property is outside India, in our case, it is in France, Paris, you can say, then the place of supply shall be the location of the recipient. So architect is Maharashtra, you are in Gujarat, but the immovable property is situated in France. But that will not make any difference. Then the place of supply will be, because both the parties are in India. Therefore, this section 12 is dealing with this case. and it's not new thing. If you look at the place of provision of service rules, they're also by the same thing through proviso, they created this and say that even both the parties are in India, the tax is payable. So far as the immovable property is located in outside India, but both the persons are in India, then the tax is payable. Where we get to apply this provision, we have got, say for example, this L&T. L&T is having a huge projects in African countries for construction of electricity transmission lines. But what do they do? They go to the African country, provide the services. In turn, for certain services, they avail the services of Indian contractors. They are subcontractors. So subcontractors are in India. L&T is also having its office in India. So they have an agreement, but the services are provided in relation to transmission towers situated in African countries. So there, they have taken a call that yes, in this type of cases, tax will be payable because both the parties are in India, even though the immovable property is situated outside India. So they are charging the tax as per the CGST, SGST, or IGST, as the case may be. But the place of supply of services is determined in India. So that is how it works. And the renting of immovable property service for business or a social function, that is also where the immovable property is located. Now you look at this case. In this case, I will also refer to section 7. I hope everybody recollects that when we saw section 7, which is determining the interstate supply, there they say that when you are providing the supply of goods or services to SEZ, will be considered as an interstate supply. Now here, the applicant SSC is in a outside SEZ, DTA. He says that I am in Delhi, but I have some customers who are coming from SEZ and they are also giving me the address of SEZ unit that you bill the services to my SEZ unit address. The issue arose, hotel service provider, he says that, sir, I am in Delhi, location of the supplier is in Delhi, services are in relation to immovable property, the place of supply is the location where the immovable property is situated. So even though I am providing services to SEZ unit, which kind of tax should I charge? Should I charge CGST, SGST, or should I charge IGST? So that was the question. Now you look at this, the determination of place of supply. Just imagine what would be your answer. We will move further in a fraction of a second, but you just imagine that what would be your answer. That will, if you look at from this angle, this will give you an even broader perspective that how this determination of place of supply. What would be your general answer? When I started to read this case, I thought location of the supplier, that is I am in Delhi, and the location of the supply, immovable property located, that is also in state of Delhi. So I should charge local CGST, SGST. But then section 7 deals with this, the SEZ, it is treated as a interstate supply. Then what should I do? Then the authority of advance ruling has held that the services by a hotel service provider will be treated as an interstate supply as per section 7 of the IGST Act, and that therefore it will be treated as a interstate supply and IGST is payable. Now, authority of advance ruling has relied on this CBIC circular, which says that in this type of cases, IGST is payable. Now, consider a case, you are a company, say pharmaceutical company located in Gujarat. You have one business event to be held and you go to a resort in Goa. If suppose in this type of services, if IGST can be charged, then you can very well ask that Goa service provider, hotel service provider, to charge IGST on you, because you are in Gujarat, you do not have any business establishment or otherwise anything in Goa, therefore you are not registered in Goa, but you are registered in Gujarat. If suppose in this type of services IGST is chargeable, then it will solve a whole lot of problems. Today what happens, I am a pharmaceutical company in Gujarat, I go to Goa and avail the services of these hotel service providers. They say that location of the supplier is what, sir? Goa. I am located in Goa. My services are in hotel accommodation services. As per section 12(3), it says that the place of supply would be where the immovable property is located. So I met these two tests. Location of the supplier, Goa. Place of supply, Goa. Then I will charge local CGST, SGST. Now this pharmaceutical company located in Gujarat says that I will not get any credit because I cannot take the credit of CGST, SGST charged in Goa to Gujarat. So therefore, this will be a loss of credit. So whole purpose of bringing this GST, that it is a one tax, one nation, one market, everything, and the seamless flow of credit also getting lost. So what should we do? So when initially when I read this case and the facts of the case, then I assumed that the authority of advance ruling must have held that this CGST, SGST is applicable, and then this SEZ unit will not get the credit. But to my surprise, the circular, circular was also there. I was aware about the circular, but I thought circular is the interpretation by the government. It's a contemporaneous expositio. It's not binding on me. So as a service provider, what should I do? Suppose tomorrow the Delhi government says that you have charged wrong tax, IGST is not payable, it is payable CGST, SGST. What should I do? So I thought from that point of time that local CGST, SGST, but to my surprise, they say that IGST is payable. So I was thinking that if government is so liberal, then they should allow this IGST to be charged in these type of cases. The pharmaceutical company will get the credit. But then, as we discussed, that the Goa and Kerala were the states, they represented before the GST Council that whenever you are determining the place of supply, in this type of services, you will have to say that these services are provided in Goa so that we can collect local CGST, SGST. And so far as the SGST is concerned, that will be our direct income and we will not be before you for funds requirement. So that is how you can see these principles of this services getting diluted. You can also think from that point we discussed that it's a destination based consumption tax. So ultimately, where would you think that these services are getting consumed? One way of looking at it, this particular point is that the services are getting consumed where the immovable property is located, and that is why the reason that the government has fixed the place of supply for this kind of services where the immovable property is located. So that is also one way of looking at it. Now you see this decision Carnation Hotels. It's 2019 10 TMI 525. So it was somewhere in October 2019. Now the same authority of advance ruling Karnataka, in case of Gokte Infrastructure, has taken a view in 2018, May 2018, that local CGST, SGST is payable. Same authority. So it's not that we chartered accountants keep on debating between that my view is this and your view is that, but even the authority of advance ruling has also taken a exactly opposite view. But the only thing which I see the different making some difference in this is because this Gokte infrastructure is a decision of authority of advance ruling in Karnataka in the May 2018, and thereafter they have issued this circular. So it might have prevailed as a subsequent decision in Carnation Hotels. The issue came up before the authority, then they must have held in this way that the IGST is payable because now the government has issued a circular, and that might have made the trick in this particular case. So in so far as these hotel services are concerned, even though they are in DTA unit and they are providing the services to a SEZ unit, IGST is possible. Now you look at this case of our own Gujarat Authority of Advance Ruling. Now this Saptagiri Hospitality, the facts of the case was the hotel was located in a non-processing zone of the SEZ itself. Now they say that location of the supplier and place of supply. Why I am emphasizing on these two words? Because this is the trick. If you master this, then I am sure that wherever the question come to you for determination of place of supply, you all will be able to answer very, very clearly. You did not have, or you did, even I say, don't go by these cases at all. Whatever your gut feeling or instinct says, that would be correct if you understand this principle correctly. So, Saptagiri Hospitality, they say that I am in a non-processing zone of the SEZ, but that is not material. I am just saying that hotel was in SEZ. He says that so far as the determination of my services are concerned, I will say my services are zero rated supply because what you need, location of the supplier. I am in SEZ. Place of supply. Place of supply is also SEZ because I am in SEZ. So even though I provide services to DTA units, some persons from DTA unit will come into SEZ hotel, they will stay. I will not charge any tax because the services, SEZ services, it's a zero rated supply. Therefore, I will not charge any tax. Now, what do you think? What actually would have happened? When I did, I thought that services, provision of the services to or by SEZ unit or a developer is treated as an interstate supply. But what is zero rated supply is services provided to a SEZ or a unit or a SEZ or a developer of the SEZ. It's not a reverse case. When a SEZ unit or a developer provides services to a DTA unit, it is taxable as under the normal circumstances would do. So here in this case, the situation is totally different. An SEZ unit is providing services to a DT unit. If you provide the services merely because you are located in the SEZ, that will not make any difference. If suppose I am a person, a Carnation Hotel case was a DTA unit was providing services to SEZ unit. Therefore, it was otherwise a zero rated supply. They say that IGST can be chargeable. They would have said that since I am providing services to SEZ, I will not charge tax at all. Forget about the CGST, SGST or IGST. That question was the better question to put before the authority, but be that as it may. Let us go ahead with that. So here is a case where the SEZ unit is providing services to a DTA unit. So otherwise, if you say that since I am located in SEZ, whatever the services I provide is getting exempted, then all of us will open one unit in SEZ. This GIFT City is a financial SEZ. Let us all open office there and we provide services to our client, and we will say that since we are in SEZ, whatever the service we provide to our client, all will not get taxed. That is also one way of looking at. You can also think of from this angle whether this decision is correct or not. But this decision, more elaborate discussion has been there in appellate authority's ruling. That is also now this decision is also confirmed by appellate authority of advanced ruling in Gujarat also. That is citation I have mentioned in my slide. So you can see that and determine. Now this is also very interesting case. Now when I started the discussion about this determination of place of supply for immobile property related services, and I gave you the illustration of a service provider in Gujarat getting the construction work in Delhi, and I said that my opinion is that he should get himself registered in Delhi and pay local CGST, SGST. Now the facts of this particular case, T&D Electricals, the person is the service provider of erection, commissioning, installation. Otherwise, that was also classifiable as a works contract services. He was having only one principal place of business, that is in Rajasthan, but he got some works contract services to be provided in Karnataka. So first he applied before the authority for advanced ruling in Rajasthan with a question that I do not have any other place of supply or a principal place of business except Rajasthan. So when I execute this work in Karnataka, should I get myself registered or not? Then the authority for advanced ruling Rajasthan said that you are asking the question to the wrong forum, because it's your place of supply in any case would be in Karnataka because it's a immobile property related services. So better you go there and seek this ruling. I cannot give this ruling on sitting in Rajasthan. SNC filed the application before the advanced authority ruling in this Karnataka. He said that I have no other principal place of business, etc. in Karnataka. I am only registered in Rajasthan. So when I come to your state and I provide the services which are in relation to immobile property, erection, commissioning, installation services, do I need to get registration in your state? That was the first question. Now, what are the other consequences of you do not get any registration in other state and you are providing the services to in the nature of immobile property services? Now, for this particular purpose, he may be procuring some goods from the dealers, suppliers located in Karnataka. Now, what would happen if he is not getting himself registered in Karnataka and this local suppliers are supplying goods to this fellow? Then they will charge local CGST, SGST. Again, the problem will come that I will not get any credit. And ultimately, if I am not getting the credit, then I will become inefficient compared to my other competitors. So that was also the question before the authority, that when the local fellow in Karnataka supplies goods to me, I have no registration in Karnataka, I am only registered in Rajasthan, how he will charge me? One question. But the second question. Now the third question was, I may procure some goods from the Rajasthan itself because I know that these fellows can provide me these goods, whatever I require efficiently. Then I will procure these goods from Rajasthan. but ultimately these goods will get consumed in Karnataka. So I will ask them to deliver to the site address. So what tax Rajasthan fellow has to charge? Because if he charges IGST, both of us are located in Rajasthan only. Somebody can dispute that both of you are in Rajasthan. This is a question of determination of supply of goods. What tax you would charge? So you should have charged CGST, SGST, not IGST. That also would have a problem. If you would have charged CGST, SGST, then say that the delivery of the goods is in the movement of the goods has terminated in Karnataka. Therefore, IGST should have been charged. So that was also the question asked. Now, consider from these facts, as I explained to you, if I have to answer this, I will answer in this way. Service provider must take registration in the state of Karnataka because it is a services in relation to immobile property services. In cases of immobile property services, the place of supply is where the immobile property is located, and then I will be providing services from the state of Karnataka. And as per section 22 of the CGST Act, I would have advised him to take registration in Karnataka. Now you see what the Authority of Advanced Routing has held. Authority of Advanced Routing has said that applicant has only one principal place of business, that is in Rajasthan, and therefore he did not take any separate registration in Karnataka. So that first question was answered in favor of the SSE. Then they say that if SSE purchases some goods from a supplier in Rajasthan, then he can very well do this bill to ship to. So he will bill to his Rajasthan address only and ship to in Karnataka. So he will charge local CGST, SGST. That problem is solved because both of them are in the same state. Same CGST, SGST is charged. Credit is available. Now then the third question, that if suppose some supplier in Karnataka, he will supply the goods to the SSE, then what would happen? Then that also they have answered that in that case, because you are not registered in Karnataka, he is supplying the goods from Karnataka, then the IGST is chargeable. Now, whatever the principles we have seen in so far as our discussion till now, do you think that it's a destination-based consumption tax? If the goods are getting consumed in Karnataka, if we hold this decision as a correct decision, then do you think that the principle of destination-based consumption tax is followed? We started our discussion in this way, that ultimately the tax will go where the goods or services are consumed, because it's a destination-based consumption tax. But in this case, it is not happening. The service provider is retaining the credit. He is paying the tax locally to Rajasthan, but the services are getting actually consumed in Karnataka. But this is how the Authority of Advanced Ruling has held. And then this trigger one more point in my mind, that if this is the principle, that if I have only one principal place of business, then whomsoever is providing these services in relation to immobile property, they will get themselves registered only at one place, and they will say that wherever we go and provide services, we will discharge tax only from Gujarat. So ultimately what you are doing is that you are taking us back to the service tax regime where the single registration, centralized registration was permissible. But do you think that that is the purpose of the GST Act? It may sound to you that yes, if you say for wherever I go and I have to provide the services in relation to immobile property, I have to get myself registered. Then it's a cumbersome, burdensome on a SSE, but that is how the scheme of the Act says. And according to me, my personal view is this decision is not correct, though it is in favor of the SSE. That is what my understanding of this decision is. Of course, when we discuss on a queries and all, you can interact more on this decision, but this is how it has happened. Now we will move to the other services where this restaurant and catering services, personal grooming, fitness, beauty treatment, health service, including cosmetic and plastic surgery. There, the section says that the place of supply would be the services where the actually services are performed. I have not seen much litigation into this, so we will skip this for a moment and move ahead, because as such I have not seen any. So far as the rate of tax is concerned in cases of restaurant and catering services, whether it's a supply of goods or it's a supply of services in food and all, the disputes are still going on. And recently I have seen one decision where this selling of ice cream party packs, they said that if you have opened a restaurant or ice cream parlor, so if you are selling this party packs, family packs, then also it will be treated as a supply of services. Seems to be somewhat erroneous, but there are other decisions also. This particular decision I am talking about, the Venkatesh, and I am sure that whomsoever has dealt with the classification of goods or services, he must have dealt with this type of decisions. And there are other decisions also in cases like Kundan Mishtan Bhandar and all. They say that typical problem, ground floor I have a restaurant, this sweet shop, and the first floor is a restaurant. So how both the things are common, like somebody comes to me, he will say that you parcel this I can consume in his restaurant also. So whether in that particular case I go to the restaurant, it will be restaurant service. If I get it parcel, then it's a supply of food. So how it is to be dealt? So that is also these disputes are going on, but I am sure that must have been dealt with in classification of goods and services. Now you can see this training services. You would notice one thing, wherever you are providing services to a registered recipient, then most of the cases they say that location of the recipient. And the intention of the government seems to be that why they have framed the rules like this, so that the recipient can avail the credit. If he is receiving the services from a person, service provider who is located in some other state, so he will be able to charge IGST if the place of supply is in a different state. So the location of the supplier is in one state and the place of supply is in a different state, then automatically if two states are involved, then as per the principle of section 7, it will be treated as an interstate supply. Since the interstate supply, he will charge, the supplier will charge IGST. IGST charge, then the recipient will not have any difficulty in taking the credit. So whatever the instances we have seen so far, like in a determination of place of supply for this immobile property and all, there are, you can say, exceptions, but largely they have followed a scheme where there will be a free flow of credit. But if you go by that Carnation hotel case at all, and if in hotel services also IGST, charging of IGST is permissible, and perhaps that problem is also solved. So this is how it works in services. So you look at these training services in relation to training and performance appraisal. Registered recipient, and it's a location of the registered person. An unregistered person, then the location at where the services are actually performed. So this is how the place of supply is determined. Same is the case with event admission services. Services provided by way of admission to a cultural, artistic, sporting, scientific. I hope that I'm not going too fast in all those services, but because the disadvantage of addressing the webinar on this type of platform, I can't see you. You can see me, but you can see my expression. I am not able to see your expression. So generally, what happens when we addressing in person, then we come to know that there are some questions and you can raise the questions also. But there's a disadvantage of this online platform that immediately we cannot raise our hand and ask the question. But it has other advantage that you can have your convenience of getting this webinar and attendance of this webinar at your own convenience and own place. And in fact, many people even situated in some other cities also can be having the benefit of this. So I don't know, but that is how my suggestion is that wherever you have any question, I don't know whether there is any mechanism in the software that you can raise your hand or ask the questions, but you can note down in our question answer session. We will deal with all those questions. So event admission services. Services provided by way of admission to a cultural, artistic, sporting, scientific, educational or entertainment event or amusement park or any other place or service ancillary thereto. The place where the actually held or where the park or such other place is located. So I have not seen so far as this dispute in this type of services are concerned. Then event related services. Services provided by way of organization of a cultural, artistic, sporting, scientific, education, entertainment services ancillary to organize any such event, sponsorship services. They have maintained that registered person, there is a location of the registered person, unregistered person, place where the event is actually held. And here also same like immobile property services. If service provider and service recipient both are in India, section 12 is applicable. But if it is in relation to services outside India, then the place of services will be location of the recipient. So you are availing the services of an organization of a, you can say your business event in Dubai, but you engage a service provider who is also located in Ahmedabad, then the place of supply will not be there where the event is actually organized, but it will be in Gujarat only. So the service provider will charge you local CGST, SGST. If the service provider in Maharashtra, then he will charge IGST, but tax will be payable. And that is the intention of having this exception in this section. Now, goods transportation services. Services by way of a transportation of goods, including by mail or courier. Though we have not seen the section 13, we will move to that in a 5-10 minutes only. But just I want to bring to your notice one important difference. Section 13(9) of the IGST Act is also same, but here where it says that services by way of a transportation of goods, including by mail or courier, in section 13(9) of the IGST Act, it is excluding by mail or courier. So there is some difference in these two provisions. Here, wherever we are discussing about this goods transportation services, it will cover the transportation services provided by mail or a courier. And here is some problem is there. And the last time somebody also requested that we have to devote some time after that. So we will discuss this in little detail. Now, so far as the services by way of a transportation of goods, including by mail or courier, the place of supply would be the location of the recipient. So if you are a goods transport agency, you are not having any registration in Gujarat, you are in Rajasthan, but you are providing these transportation services to a person who is located in Gujarat. So your location of the supplier is Rajasthan only, because you do not have any registration and you are not providing any supply from Gujarat. And the location of the place of supply would be location of the registered person. So your location of the supplier is in Gujarat. Place of supply is the registered person who is in Ahmedabad. Therefore, you will charge IGST if you opt to pay for GPS services under the forward charge mechanism. If he has to pay under reverse charge mechanism, then also he will also pay the IGST. Now, so far as the unregistered person is concerned, location at which such goods are handed over for their transportation. So considering the same illustration, you are a transport service provider, GTA in Rajasthan, and you are providing the services to an unregistered person. Say for example, as a lawyer, I am also unregistered person, but I am asking him to transport these goods. Then the location at where the goods are handed over to him for transportation. So goods have been handed over to him in Gujarat. So there are two states are concerned. So in a case of unregistered person, he will charge IGST. Now consider the case that I hand over the goods to him in Rajasthan. I am unregistered person. So location of the supplier, he is in Rajasthan. Place where the goods are handed over to him is also Rajasthan. So in that particular case, local CGST, SGST would be chargeable. Now, there is one proviso inserted in this section. It says that proviso inserted with effect from 1st February 2019 to state that if the goods are transported outside India, then the place of supply would be the destination of the goods. And what is the significance of it? We will see in a couple of minutes only. But so far as this, say for example, you are an exporter of goods, then you have a two choice. Either you can engage the foreign shipping line for taking your goods from India to a foreign destination, and you can also have a Indian shipping line who will take out the goods from India and make it reach to the foreign destination. So in that case, if you consider the now in this light of this fact, you consider this proviso. So let us assume that you have engaged the service provider shipping line in India. You want to export the goods. Now, even though both of you are in India, this proviso say that if the destination goods are transported outside India, then the place of supply would be the destination of the goods. So destination of the goods is a foreign country. So place of supply would be outside India. Now in these facts, we will also consider now so far as the shipping line, Indian shipping line is concerned. Now you see the fourth point, currently for goods to be transported through airlines or shipping lines, the exemption is granted under notification number 12 of 2017, that is exempted services. It says that 19A and 19B, it will not be taxable. This exemption is available up to 13th September 2020. Now consider a case this exemption is not continued further, and your client comes to you on 1st October 2020. What would be your advice if your client is a Indian shipping line carrying out the goods outside India? This is question number one. And I think many of you would have faced this problem that you are engaging a local courier fellow who is also registered in Gujarat to send these documents, goods, etc. to outside India, because this particular section covers the services provided by a mail or courier. The first question would be that whether the tax is payable when the destination of the goods is outside India. So as per this section, whether the tax is chargeable or not. If it is chargeable, then section 75A says that if the location of the supplier is in India and the place of supply is outside India, then this will be considered as an interstate transaction. So the question arose, let us assume that first answer is answered in negative. Yes, tax is payable. Then which tax should be payable, IGST or CGST, SGST? That's the second question. So if you answer the first question, the tax itself is not payable, then obviously you will not answer the second question. So now we will see in this particular factual background. I will repeat for benefit of all that I am Indian shipping line. I am transporting the goods through courier for my client. Whether I need to charge tax or not. If your answer is yes, then which tax, IGST or a local CGST, SGST? Now, location of the supplier, I am in Gujarat. I am registered in Gujarat only. And the place of supply. If you look at this proviso, it says that place of supply would be the destination of the goods. Destination of the goods is outside India. Can I say that this Indian government has power to levy tax so far as the performance of the services is within its territory? If it is outside India, outside the place of supply, this outside the Indian territory, taxable territory, then they do not have any right to levy tax. Therefore, I will not pay tax at all. If you say yes, then I will not answer the second question. Now see in this way. The exporter has two options to transport the goods. He can engage the Indian shipping line, courier agency, foreign shipping line, foreign courier agency. Now, in case the exporter engages the Indian shipping line, courier agency, then place of supply will be determined in terms of section 12.8, that is here. And in case the exporter engages the foreign shipping line, then place of supply will be determined in terms of section 13.9. So you have this comparison. Okay. Now, as I said, section 75A of the IGST Act says that when the supplier is located in India and the place of supply is outside India, then it will be considered as an interstate transaction. Now you can just think in your mind that if you are a courier agency, then which tax you would have charged, if charged at all. See, my answer to this query is this. I would advise not to charge any tax, because if you look at the definition of taxable territory that is given under section 2109 of the CGST Act, it says that defines the taxable territory as taxable territory means the territory to which the provisions of this act apply. Now you recollect the case of INA Bearings we discussed. There both the persons were in India. INA Bearings, he was selling the die to Renault Nissan, who was in Chennai, Tamil Nadu. But the authority of advance ruling said, so far as the determination of place of supply is concerned, you refer to section 7. But so far as the chargeability is concerned, there should be a taxing event occurring. Section 5 in that particular case was referred and says that this is the charging section. Since the charging section is not occurring at all, triggering at all, there cannot be any levy of tax. Now consider in this case, even though both the persons in India, ultimately what will happen, if you say the tax is payable, then the purpose of amending the section 12.8 itself, that provided that where the transportation of goods is to a place outside India, the place of supply shall be the place of destination of such goods, will become redundant. Why? Because there is no benefit accruing to me after this. Even after insertion of this proviso, if you want to tax this transaction, then there is no benefit to me. So my submission is that purpose of this insertion of this proviso was to make, otherwise what will happen, nobody will engage the Indian shipping line. If I have an option, I will say foreign shipping line, because foreign shipping line, you go to section 13.9, says that place of this destination of the goods, I am out of that, then I will not pay tax. to bring the parity between the Indian shipping line and a foreign shipping line or a courier service providers, this section was amended to say that in a case where you are engaging the Indian shipping line or Indian courier company, that the place of supply would be the outside India because the goods are destined outside India. If you don't give this benefit, then there is no purpose of giving this benefit. Now also consider a case if this notification, this exemption 19 and 19B is not continued after 30th September 2020. Your answer should not get changed because once you conclude that the place of supply, destination of the goods, it's outside India, I don't need this exemption because my services are not taxable. Why should I take this exemption? This particular exemption, this notification is a CGST notification. It says that I will give you this exemption, but I don't need this exemption because if you determine my place of supply is outside India, then I am out of your jurisdiction and therefore I don't need any exemption notification. So even if you don't continue this, my services should not be getting taxed. So wherever you have come across a queries from your client that this courier company is in India only, maybe in Gujarat or maybe from Maharashtra, and they are charging the tax, IGST, etc., you can very well say to your client that this tax itself is not payable because the place of supply is outside India. So it's beyond the taxable territory of India, and therefore tax itself is not applicable. That is what my answer to this particular query is. I hope I have dealt with this particular service clearly, and you are able to follow. If you have any doubts, we will discuss again in question answer session. Let's see. Now this passenger transportation services, they say that if you are providing a services to a registered recipient, then the location of the recipient, unregistered recipient, place where the passenger embarks on the conveyance for a continuous journey. That also they have clarified that what can be called as a continuous journey. That was in service tax regime also, they have said so. Return journey is treated as a separate journey. Now services on board a conveyance such as vessel, aircraft, train or a motor vehicle. Similar provision is there in case of section 10(1)(e). So far as the determination of the place of supply of the goods is concerned, there also they say that when you are handing over the goods, when you are providing the services on board a conveyance, like we have seen this normally how these airline operators route their flights. One flight has originated from Chennai, then it has a stoppage at Bangalore, then Mumbai, and then Ahmedabad, and then Jaipur, and then Delhi, so on and so forth. But at a different point of time, they will get the goods like food being served on board the flight. So some goods they may take in from Bombay, some goods they may take in from Jaipur, and ultimately the flight reaches to Delhi. So in these type of cases, how to determine the place of supply of the goods? So they say that when you are handing over the goods to the to be provided for this on-board conveyance, the place of supply would be when the goods are handed over. Exactly this case has happened in service tax regime, this IRCTC's case. Generally, a train starts from, say, for example, Rajdhani. It has started from Delhi. It will come or it will pass through Rajasthan and ultimately it will reach to Ahmedabad. Now, these food packets are boarded on the train from Delhi itself. But goods, these food packets are given to the passengers when the train is moving through Rajasthan. Some of the because this Rajasthan, then it goes to Madhya Pradesh, and then ultimately it comes back to Gujarat. Then there may be some instances that for one particular item there may be a 2-portion serving, 3-portion serving, and generally it happens also. So when the consumer has started to consume the goods are given to him in Rajasthan. The another portion of the same goods, same food is given in the state of Madhya Pradesh, and ultimately the train has reached its destination in Ahmedabad, Gujarat. So there was a practical difficulty in determining the place of supply because all the sales tax authorities will say that since the Delhi wala will say, since these goods are boarded on conveyance train in my state, sale has taken place in my state, therefore I will levy the sales tax. IRCTC will say that no, see, I have just simply boarded the goods. I have not given it to Indian Railways or its customers. Ultimately, when train passes through the Rajasthan, then only I have handed over the food packet to the passenger, and therefore place of supply would be Rajasthan. then Madhya Pradesh wala will say that at least one portion of the service you have served this food in my territory, therefore that will be my right to levy tax. And of course, Gujarat will say that ultimately everybody has come to Gujarat, I will levy the tax. And that was exactly that particular situation. And you can refer to this para 48 and 49 of this IRCTC's decision, where they have said that so far as, because there were two questions. One, when I am supplying these food packets to Indian Railways, IRCTC supplies these food packets to Indian Railways, whether it is a supply of goods or a services, that was the first question. And at what point of time the sales tax or the applicable tax would be leviable, that was the second question. So we are concerned with the second question, that ultimately what is the place of supply. Then in IRCTC's case, they have said that ultimately when the goods are boarded on a conveyance, so the train has started from Delhi, IRCTC has boarded these food packets in Delhi, therefore Delhi will have a right to levy tax on this, the place of supply would be Delhi. Going forward in this, and that is the reason that so far as the services on board a conveyance or a goods on a board a conveyance, they have said that location of the first schedule point of departure, that conveyance for the journey. So that is how the place of supply is determined in this type of cases. So they have, in so far as this determination of place of services is concerned on board a conveyance, they have maintained the ratio of a Delhi High Court in case of IRCTC, and that is why this specific provision is there. Now, so far as the telecommunication services are concerned, you can see this because in telecommunication services, there are so many categories they have bifurcated, and the place of supply is also determinable in view of each and every services. Like you have a fixed telecommunication line, then the place of supply is determined differently. If you have a mobile connection, then the place of supply is being determined differently. So wherever you are confronted with this type of services, then you will have to look at the specific place of supply. So that is how we started our discussion, that wherever the government has given you the determination of place of supply service wise, you just look at that. If your services are not falling into any of these services, then the general rule will apply at the location of the recipient in case of a registered recipient. So your chartered accountant services, they are not mentioned in any of these. So obviously that if you are providing this to a registered person, then the location of the recipient, that is how the place of supply is determined. So these are the different rules. These are all deep in fiction. In all the circumstances, it may not be tested through the time, but this is how the government has fixed up the services. But largely, if you observe, then wherever the services are capable or they want to pass on the benefit of the credit, and they understand that if services are provided and the customer can be somewhere else, then they have said that location of the recipient if he is registered. In other cases, they have said that location of the supplier. Because if you provide the services to a person like in a banking and other financial services to a person who is not registered, so say there is a location of the supplier. So even though I may be in Gujarat, but I may be availing the banking services from a bank situated in Bombay. So he will charge local CGST, SGST of Maharashtra because I am not registered or the location is not available. Hardly matters because government gets its tax. I am unregistered. I am in any case not going to get any credit. So that is how the place of supply is fixed. Same for insurance services. Advertisement services to government located in each state. That is how this circular was also there on this. Now we are moving to this some where the at least one of them, the provider of the service or the recipient of the service is located outside India. So we are moving towards this. I hope till now it is clear, and this more or less section 13, we will not invest much time into this because so far as the scheme of the services are concerned, they have followed that. But however, section 13, there are some peculiar transactions or some services which are not even mentioned in section 12. They are coming into section 13 because say for example, the we will see in detail the services performed on the goods. That is mentioned only in section 13. Section 12, it is not there. Why? because it doesn't make any difference wherever you are. If suppose the service provider and the service recipient is located in India, in any case those services are taxable. So determination of place of supply will be determined on the basis of the default rule, that is the place of the registered person. So the service provider will charge tax and the recipient will get the credit also. So hardly it makes any difference. But here section 13, this type of problem will create some problem for the service providers, because your recipient could be outside India, but still you will be paying the tax. And therefore it is necessary to see this whether services are export of services or not. So far as the export of services are concerned, these are the 5 conditions, and these are all the 5 conditions are cumulative conditions. If you do not fulfill any one of them, then the service will not get export benefit. Supplier of service is located in India, of course. Recipient of service should be outside India, yes. Otherwise section 12 will be applicable. In any case you will be paying the tax, so that also does not make any difference. And this is the third one, is the most important. The place of supply of service should be outside India. Even this, you fulfill this first 2 condition, but you don't fulfill this third one, then also your services will get taxed. And the payment for such service has been received by the supplier in convertible foreign exchange. And the supplier of service and the recipient of service are not merely establishment of a distinct person in accordance with explanation 1 to section 8. So that is also there. If all tests satisfied, then this will be eligible for 0 rating services, export of services. If all or any test is not satisfied, then it will be interstate as per deeming fiction of 7.5, and it will have some consequences that we will be examining this, because it will not be considered as a 0 rated supply, and therefore taxable as IGST, whether taxable as IGST or not. Because if you say that place of supply is outside India, let us assume that you are fulfilling all other conditions, but you have not received this consideration in convertible foreign exchange somehow, then what will happen? Because the place of service is any case outside India, can you tax me? Can you say that I will, at the most what you can do, you will say that this is not considered as export of service, I will not give you benefit of 0 rating. What do you mean by a benefit of 0 rating is, you will not give me refund, you cannot give me the credit also, because 0 rated meaning is I will retain the credit but I will not pay the output tax. That is 0 rated. 0 rated and exempted, there is a difference. If you are providing exempted services, you are not paying the tax on your output supply, but you are not eligible for taking credit also, because you are engaged into exempt supply. But in the case of a 0 rated supply, your output is not attracting any tax, but you are eligible to claim input tax credit. So that is how it is called as a 0 rating. So that is also an issue. If I the place of supply is outside India, but I am not fulfilling one of the condition, can you tax me? That is also one of the point. So this example, service is provided to customers in Nepal and Bhutan, consideration realized in Indian currency. Services were consideration not realized at all. So can you say that my transaction will become taxable even though the place of supply is outside India? My personal view is that it cannot be taxed. At the most, you can deny me the refund, you can deny me the benefit of a 0 rating, but it cannot be taxable because the place of supply is outside India. It is outside the taxable territory, and therefore there cannot be any consequence of tax. Now this is import of services. The supplier of service is located outside India, yes. The recipient of service is located in India, and the place of supply of service is in India. So that is how we assume the importance of a determination of place of supply in case of export and import, because it has necessarily to be outside India as per section 13. Then only it will be benefited as an export of services. And if by virtue of section 13, the determination of place of supply, if the place of supply is in India, it will be considered as a import of services. Now, we have seen this list of services so far as this section 12 is concerned. So what here I have done is that more or less it remains the same. So I have in a smaller table, and I have marked these services as a performance-based services and location where the services are actually performed in red, because there we need to have some discussion. Otherwise, more or less the principle is the same as per section 12. So, but of course there are some differences, but this is how where the litigation is going on. these performance-based services, and of course the intermediary. So here we will discuss some other cases and the principle how this has happened in the legacy disputes like the service tax, and how that principle is applicable here. Because more or less, if you look at the definition of intermediary services, there is no such difference. It's the same. So principles of the past decision also can be helpful to you, or that can kill to you as well. Now, so far as these performance-based services are concerned, see generally what happens. These are the cases which are in favor of the SSE. In all these cases, if you see, the SSE is R&D services, some technical testing and analysis services. If you are providing this type of services, then generally what happens, if you provide the research and development services, then the foreign recipient will give you some goods. Then by using those goods, you will be doing this R&D, and ultimately the report will be prepared and you will send it to a person who is situated outside India. So in past, if you look at the place of provision of service rules, there was some problem, but prior to 1st July 2012, that is prior to introduction of the negative list of regime, these were services were considered as a export of services. But after 1st July 2012, they introduced the place of provision of service rules, and Rule 4 of the POPS rules 2012 had a similar provision which we are having in section 13.3 of the IGST Act. So there the SSEs were contending that performance-based services means what? When the goods are being handed over to the supplier of services, the place of supply would be the place where the goods are handed over. So that is how the service, the place of supply is determinable in this 13.3 performance-based services. It says that location where services are actually performed. So where the services are actually performed, so R&D services are actually performed in India. So the government's contention is that these services are taxable in India because the place of supply is in India. Now, Adwinners case I will discuss first. SSE was engaged in technical testing and analysis services. So generally, these kind of services are provided by, in a general term, we refer to it as a CRO services, clinical research organization. Like you take the illustration now, we have certain organization which can do this technical testing of this COVID-19 vaccine. Now, they have a facility, they don't have a vaccine. So say for example, Pfizer is developing this vaccine, and Pfizer in USA gives this vaccine to the Indian service provider. Indian service provider will test this vaccine here, and ultimately will generate a report, prepare a report, and that report is sent to Pfizer. So the government says that these services, because the performance of the services are in India, and therefore these services are taxable in India. And the SSE's contention was the goods are part of this whole activities. I do so many activities. The receipt of the goods from the recipient of the supply is one of the activity, and ultimately the recipient is not interested in these goods, but ultimately he is interested in knowing the result, that what I have done in these goods. So the service should be treated as a export of goods, because there is actually no performance on the goods. In this particular case, a fine distinction was made. If you look at the SISTET decision, originally the case was of whether the SSE can claim the refund where the services are performed in goods and the goods are handed over in India. So that was the same pari materia provisions in relation to POPS and the section 13.3 of the IGST Act. There the tribunal said that actually the performance is not of goods. In cases like R&D services and technical testing and analysis services, the goods are getting consumed during the process of service. The service provider is not making any performance on the goods. The goods are getting consumed. The recipient is not interested in receiving the goods back. Another important point, they say that the satisfaction of the customer is occurring at the point of time when he gets a report from the service provider. So that occurs outside India, and therefore the place of provision of service also would be outside India. Now all other tests are being fulfilled. We can say that the consumption of the service is where? The consumption of the service is outside India. So in my view, this Ad Venus decision is correct in law because the consumption of the service is outside India. He is sending me foreign currency. So I am otherwise fulfilling all the test of export of services, and this should be treated as an export of services. This life sciences case is also on the same, but it's only one line decision. It has relied on some other cases which has no connection whatsoever. Only the general principle of export of services. Sai Life Sciences was followed in Ad Venus, but I would not say that Sai Life Sciences, so far as this persuasive value is concerned, that is also good, because according to me, there is no such discussion. This Dow Chemicals and Fertin Pharma has more or less followed the principle laid down in Ad Venus. Now, decision against the SSE, the Sai Life Sciences case 2019-6 TMI 572 is the subsequent period decision. So SSE was already having one decision in his own case in his favor. General principle is, even the Supreme Court in Mahindra and Mahindra said that if suppose the tribunal has held in one way, whether against the SSE or in favor of the SSE doesn't make any difference. But if the tribunal has decided the matter in one way, in a subsequent all cases that should be followed. If this subsequent bench of the tribunal, when deciding the subsequent matter, if they are of the view that the view taken by the predecessor is not correct, then they cannot hold against the SSE. The matter is to be referred to the larger bench of the decision, larger bench of that particular appellate forum. They cannot decide against the SSE. But however, somehow in this particular case, in June 2019, the matter has been decided against the SSE. It has not been referred to the larger bench, but it has been decided against the SSE. Same facts, same everything is same. And the Clientha research is also the same case, but it is in the GST provisions. Authority of Advanced Ruling Maharashtra, Ad Venus was referred, but they have distinguished on a ground that is in a service tax regime and all, and therefore it is not applicable. Now this CRO services, the service providers, they represented before the government that ultimately we are earning the precious foreign exchange for you. The consumption of the service is also outside India. Actually, nobody is interested in getting the goods back. The goods are getting consumed during the provision of the service. It cannot be said that the performance is on the goods, and that is happening in India. So central government has issued a notification, and this is for the first time we are saying that the place of supply is also being determined or getting altered by way of a notification. If you strictly go by the provisions and the contemporanea expositio, that is the circular and the other things issued by the government time to time, they say that the services are consumed in India or performance is in India, therefore we will levy tax. But for these particular services in relation to pharmaceutical sector, they have issued a notification saying that if these are the conditions and these are the services, they have given the list of the services. But kindly note that that is only for R&D services in the pharmaceutical sector, not otherwise. There they say that place of supply will be the place where the recipient is located. In all these cases, obviously it is outside India, and therefore they will get the benefit of export of services. So this Clientha research and all other decisions will now not have any relevance so far as this notification is in force. And so far as this performance-based services and other services are concerned, we will discuss this circular of this 18 July 2019, where it was withdrawn also subsequently, but there they have tried to tinker with something. Now, I understand that all of you must be facing some problem in this intermediary services. What I understand in, they have defined this intermediary, who can be called as an intermediary. That definition was there in the place of provision of supplies rules also. Now we have this definition in the IGST Act also. But if you look at the section, both are pari materia. So whatever the precedents we have under the legacy disputes, that all will be relevant here also. I have listed down the decisions here, which are held in favor of SSE and against the SSE, and now we will discuss more or less each one of them. I will brief you about the controversy involved in those cases so that you can have a better idea. This GoDaddy's case is referred almost in all the cases where they were determining the place of supply for the intermediaries concerned. Somehow, so far as the intermediary is concerned, the government has chosen to say that so far as the services of intermediary is concerned, the place of supply would be the services where the intermediary is located. So say for example, you are in fact providing the services in the nature of intermediary services and your recipient is located outside India, then what will happen that even though the services are, you can say consumption is also outside India, he is recipient outside India, you are earning foreign currency, but the one taste of export of services you are not fulfilling, that the place of supply also should be outside India. Therefore, the benefit of export of services and the zero rating is not given to you. So in those cases, uh, even though everything you are fulfilling, but you have to pay tax. And generally what happens that those fellows who are situated in foreign country, they will not give you these taxes and they will object. So ultimately it is hitting your pocket because you will have to treat this as a cum tax value and you will have to pay tax because Indian authorities are always asking for tax. So that is the problem you are facing. In GoDaddy India's case, GoDaddy India was actually working for GoDaddy US. The types of activity it was doing is that marketing of GoDaddy US. Basically, GoDaddy US was providing the services of a website registration. Like you want to register www Ahmedabad branch of ICI.com. So they will provide these services to you. So GoDaddy India's role was to provide the guidance, marketing strategies to GoDaddy US. They will be providing services on a principal to principal basis to GoDaddy US only. They will not interact or they will not provide any sort of services to the customers. So in the service tax provisions, the matter was referred to the authority of advance ruling, and it was held that the GoDaddy India is providing the services on a principal to principal basis. It cannot be considered as an intermediary, and therefore the services of a GoDaddy India was considered as a services in as an export of services, and the benefit was given to him. GoDaddy was also providing the services in the nature of marketing research and all, that how the market condition in India, at what point of time you should introduce some schemes. So all sort of guidance was provided there. Now look at the definition of intermediary. Generally what I understood or what I understand from the definition of intermediary is that if my role is bridging the gap between two persons, then I can be called as an intermediary. But the definition itself excludes those kind of persons who are providing services on their own. Now this will make the lot of difference. If we understand that who can be called as a providing the services on his own, then everything will fall in place. But then you will think that if I have to bridge the gap, I am you can say agent of some food grain merchant, and I have to find out customer for him. Then I will go with my goods. I will convince the customer that ultimately you see this, you purchase from this vendor, then it will be beneficial to you and all. But to bridge this gap, I have used my brain. I have used my skill as an intermediate service provider. Otherwise, who will engage me? If you go by this, then everything is your services on your own. There is no services like an intermediary because ultimately you will have to use your skills. Now consider a case of a call center service provider. One fellow is running a call center for a Vodafone. A Vodafone customer can dial the call center, and then the call center will answer the queries of the customer. Can you say that in this particular case he is simply the intermediary? Whatever is available there for Vodafone, he has passed on to the customer. He has not added any value of his own. He cannot be considered as providing services on his own. Possible. In GoDaddy's case, it was also one of the services. I am not saying that one. GoDaddy's, there are list of services provided. Ultimately, they say that GoDaddy is providing services on his own because if you look at the nature of services, he says that market condition in India, at what point of time this scheme should be floated, what would be the strategy, how much discount to be offered to the customers, all those questions were there. So the authority of advance ruling in service tax held that the services of a GoDaddy was ultimately the services on his own, and therefore he was out of the definition of intermediary, and therefore services will be treated as a export of services. Now another case of a Sunrise Immigration, and I think many of you are facing this problem in case of this education consultants. In Sunrise Immigration's case, the facts are simple. he says that I am providing these visa consultancy services to somebody to foreign also, Indian national also, I will pay tax. That was not in dispute. But so far as he is providing services to the foreign universities and also some foreign financial institutions where the persons would borrow the money and he get the commission in India. He said that, sir, my services are export of service. I am not an intermediary, because ultimately what I have to do is I have to guide the student. I will do these activities, that this particular course is suitable to you and all these things, and therefore the services are of my own. I am not an intermediary. But the contention of the department was, what value you are adding to your services? Whatever the services, whatever the courses are offered by the foreign university, you are offering to the student. And ultimately, when it materializes, you are getting the consideration in convertible foreign currency. But so far as you are concerned, you are nothing but the intermediary, because you cannot add any value to the student. Whatever is being offered by the university, that alone can be offered to the student. And therefore, you are an intermediary. Now see the thin line difference in all these cases. I am saying that as a consultant, education consultant, I have to use my own mind. They are not paying this to me that because they have this course and I am facilitating to the student. Therefore, they are not paying me. Ultimately, I have to use my skills. I have to use my analytical skills to say that this course is suitable to you and this is not suitable to you, and that is how it is getting materialized. So I am using my skills to persuade the student to go for this particular course or this particular university, and therefore the services are provided on my own, and therefore uh, I am not an intermediary. Now see the difference between the contention of the department. Department says that you can't add value to your services because whatever is offered by the university, that alone can be offered to the student. SSC says that it's not that. I am getting the consideration for my own services. In all these cases, what will happen? You will get your consideration, but can you say that this consideration is you got for your own purpose or using your own skills? So there, the thin line of difference will be there. And Sunrise Immigration, ultimately, it was held in favor of the SSC to say that you can't be considered as an intermediary because you are using your own skill. Verizon India is also same case. Verizon India was providing services to Verizon US. There's a host of services are provided. They say that the Delhi Tribunal, after considering the decision of the Delhi High Court in case of Verizon only, they say that you can't be considered as a intermediary. This Asahi, Kasai, and NES Global, everywhere the same set of facts were there. That one clause they have inserted in the agreement to say that you will be generally advising them on some general condition in India, marketing condition in India, and all. So picking up particular those clauses, the authority of advanced billing in GST has held that yes, in these particular cases, the SSC will not be considered as an intermediary. And in you can say interestingly, in all these cases, GoDaddy was followed. Now there are some decisions of the same authority of advanced billing in Maharashtra. They have held that the SSC is intermediary only, and he is providing services as an intermediary. You can note down one more fact, that wherever this authority of advanced billing in Maharashtra, because these are the illustrative list, you will get so many other cases also in favor of the SSC, in against the SSC also. But I have listed down few cases which are referred to some other cases also. Unfortunately, what has happened that subsequently the authority of Maharashtra, appellate authority of Maharashtra, they realized that the determination of place of supply is not in the scope of the states, and all those decisions which are held in favor of the SSC, they have reversed those cases on a ground that the basically the authority cannot determine the place of supply. That's the other thing. But so far as we are concerned with the understanding whether somebody can be called as an intermediary or not. Now you look at the cases against the SSC. In this VSUB Global, SSC was having the back office operation in India for its principal situated outside India. Generally, what happens, I have seen many of the MNCs, they have set up their units in India. They are actually bringing these kind of things into India, and they are setting up these units. What these Indian units will be doing is that they will be doing this research on their customers, the pricing methods, and sometimes in bookkeeping and all. So all these activities are being done in India. Now they are claiming that we are providing the business support services to the recipients situated outside India. We are not actually providing any intermediary services. Another angle to be seen in these type of cases is that generally what happens in intermediary concept, there are three parties involved: Visa Global, Verizon, GoDaddy. There are no third party involved. In Sunrise Immigration, you can say third party student was also involved, but in these particular cases, it was not involved. So even then, the authority of advanced ruling has said that what you are doing is that only the facilitating the services to the foreign principal, and therefore you will be considered as a intermediary. I don't think that this controversy will rest soon, because the government is also not resting on it. They issued the circular that we have seen this in last bullet, so far as the IT services are concerned. But realizing that the circular is also contradictory to their own views, they have rescinded in December 2019. So that circular was also withdrawn. So government is also not clear on any definitive test to be applied to see whether this person has acted as a intermediate or not. Now you consider the case of this five-star shipping, that authority of advanced ruling Maharashtra. He was shipping agent for the shipping lines. In UK, they called as a port agents. The, the port agent or the shipping agent is not actually concerned with the, or is not even dealing with the importers and exporters. They are dealing with the foreign shipping line only. There are a host of services they provide. Uh, Generally, what happens in the foreign shipping line comes into Indian territorial waters. Then they require so many compliances with the local authorities, Indian customs, and also the port, because they need to ascertain that in a location of the port is here, then what kind of berth will be suitable to it, what time the vessel will be in the Indian territorial waters, and they liaise with the governmental agencies here, and all those services are being provided by the shipping agent to the shipping line. They are actually not concerned with the importer and exporter. So they claim that we are providing these services to foreign shipping line. Our services are more like a management consultancy services. We are not actually intermediary. In five-star shipping, the authority of advanced shipping Maharashtra has said that what you are doing is you are liaising with the governmental authorities. You are procuring the services for a foreign, therefore you are intermediary, and therefore this place of supply is India, and therefore it will be taxable. So this controversy, at least you will have to see on a case-to-case basis, because if you look at all these cases, factually there are some differences, and you can see that authority of Maharashtra has held in favor of the SSC also, against the SSC also. So there is no definitive case available to be applied in each case, and you can say that in this particular case he will not be SSC intermediary, or he will be intermediary. It's very difficult to ascertain at this point of time. There are no circular available, as I said. That circular was issued, ultimately it was withdrawn. So I don't think that this particular controversy will rest anytime soon. But selfishly, we can say that it will be generate some opportunity for all of us. That at least I can say. Now, this very peculiar situation, I am as such not registered because I am a lawyer. I want to download one software for my own personal computer. So I will be downloading this. Let us take an illustration of antivirus software from website of Norton. I am in a taxable territory, but I am not registered. Norton is non-taxable territory. Who will pay tax? If you look at section 7, import of services, whether for commercial purposes or not, they say there is a supply. So tax is payable. But who will pay tax? I am not registered. And for this purpose, I am not going to get registration and I will pay tax. It's not going to happen. And practically, government cannot control over the SSCs like me, because I'm not registered. For which place I will download? Today I'm in Gujarat. Tomorrow I'm in Maharashtra. I will download from there. So government cannot have a control. But fact is, this is supply. It's a taxable supply. So who will pay tax? So it may sound odd to you, but they are asking Norton to come to India and get himself registered, because they say that your place of supply of services is in India. You are providing services in my state, my country. You come here and pay tax. Now, how many of you think that practically this is possible or suggestible to someone, that you ask Norton to come India merely because one Mr. Jigar Shah has downloaded the software? For one download, you come to India and take your registration and pay tax here. How far is it practicable? But you will be wondering that this type of provision was there in the place of supply for services. They introduced only in December 2016, just few months back from by this introduction of the GST. But that is actually happening. If you look at the all over the world, this provision is there. Not only India, everywhere they are saying this service provider, you come to my country and pay tax. Now there are ways of paying the tax. If you have appointed any agent here, then say the agent is your agent for purpose of payment of tax. Also ask him to pay tax. That's also possible. You need not come, but at least you make some arrangement that the tax is paid to the government. So that is how this is a very special provision for payment of tax by a supplier of information and database access and retrieval services only, because it's a highly intangible. You can't measure. So that is the reason that is a very specific provision so far as the IGST Act is concerned. So this is how I complete my presentation. I have taken today also more than 1.5 hours. My apologies for that, but I hope that you enjoyed the session and it was beneficial to you. So my request is that you need not look into all these decisions and all. Ultimately, if you read this section 7, 10, 12, 13, location of the supplier and place of supply, I don't think this is very it's difficult. It's easy. It requires some time, but I am sure that you will be able to determine, and that is how I finish my presentation. Now, if suppose there are some questions, and then we will take up those questions, and then we will conclude the session. Thank you very much for your 2 times patient hearing and the lengthy presentation. I'm deeply obliged, and express my gratitude to Ahmedabad branch for inviting me for sharing my thoughts. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jigar bhai, for dealing with the provisions of section 12, section 13 so depth, and considering all the provisions of the intermediary as well as the provisions in relation to the immovable property under section 12. Now, for the current session, we do not have any questions from the participant. So there is no. I think all the queries are now got resolved with regard to the place of supply. as far as you have said that you need to master only of the 2 things. First, what is the location of the supplier and place of supply? That is the section 7 you need to consider with respect to 12, reading subject to section 12 and 13, and your gut feeling and instinct will tell you about the same.
Yes, sir. That will be the key to determination of place of supply. That's the only key.
Sir, on behalf of the Ahmedabad branch of ICAI, we express the grateful thanks to you for giving us the enlightenment about the place of supply in 2 parts, that is on 8th as well as on today. Thank you so much, sir, for your precious time.
My pleasure. My pleasure, sir. My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to all the participants for joining this particular series. Thank you, everyone.